I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone.
Yeah, I majored in marketing and economics, right? And economics was the secondary. It was like, I just needed like 2 more classes. So I was like, let me go ahead and pick this up with the business admin degree. And so it just made sense. But I really thought I was going to pursue a career in marketing. Naturally, it ended up being beneficial because as an entrepreneur, the second most important thing is getting your message out there, which is why people promote with y'all, right? Like the second thing is getting your message out there, which we probably will talk more about later in the podcast as a catalyst to really growing your business. But that was ended up being important, but I never thought I'd have a career on the finance side. That was just kind of a byproduct. And then the second part of your question about is college essential now? I have no regrets about my college experience. I think from a relationship and connection standpoint, it was probably more beneficial there than it was like the technicalities of my degree, right? If we're being 100% honest in terms of like how I apply it to my today business. But I think, in today's climate, I won't say it's necessary. I won't be one to say, don't go, it's bad. I will say that like there are other ways to be able to get the education you need. What I do think is colleges have to entertain like more specific methods of education. Like there should be no reason why we walk out of college and don't know about personal finance. There should be no reason why we don't understand credit. There should be no reason why we don't understand how to invest, right? Like, so there are certain things that colleges have to alter. And I think it could still be good, but if not, there's definitely more economical approaches. I mean, there's more stuff that people have learned from courses that they've taken from me, or probably courses that y'all have that, they're making them real money today than some of the stuff they pay thousands upon thousands of dollars for to school, right? And so the school just have to realize like, look, the game has changed. It's the information age, right? And so we can't have this same setup and this same approach and think we're going to basically, for lack of better terms, pee in their face and tell them it's raining, right? Like we got to give them, what they deserve and make this a more equitable arrangement, right? What other situation would you pay thousands upon thousands of dollars with not even an inkling of type of guarantee or, opportunity for jobs, right? It's like, hey, like I hope it makes sense. I hope it works out. Like that is insane, right? So maybe I've seen some small micro models pop up where like through certain accelerator programs where you don't pay on the front end, right? You get the trade, get the skill set. And then when you get hired and get that job, you kind of pay a percentage on the back end until you fulfill the obligation of the education cost. I think that's fair, right? Especially if it's a really, really premium skill set, right? And a person's able to get that without paying on the front end. But they're going to have to adjust how they approach it. But expecting somebody to pay 40, 50, 100 grand with no guarantees and not even teaching them some of the fundamental life skills that they need to thrive outside of college is a big no.
Man, I'm glad you touched on that piece, bro, because like that you said something in there, like that personal finance piece about people going to school for all that time and leaving and not knowing this stuff. And like that was the beginning of this for us, because we started this out of college ourselves, where it was like we stumbled into financial literacy and was like, wow, why are we not being taught this information? And like it really kind of led to the catalyst of this. And I kind of want to go now into you with your job working with that financial services firm, like after being in college and not really learning and all that. Was that the beginning of like your true financial literacy education? Like how did that kind of play out?
Yeah, good question, man. Again, it's all funny how it connects, right? So if we take a couple steps back, right? Growing up, I didn't come from money. I saw my family struggle. And so something inside of me, like, even though I didn't know exactly what was going on, like I had this like instinct that it was related to finance, right? And so, my mom will tell you to this day, when I was in elementary school, I was loaning out money to my aunts and uncles, right? Because I would get money cutting grass or doing certain things. And I didn't know the term interest, but then logically, I was just like, hey, if I give you $20, I mean, I should probably get more than $20 back, right? And so I was doing that in elementary school. Again, made no connection that this was going to be a career path. It just made sense to me because I was looking at my circumstance and I was like, man, this doesn't feel good. Like, and I feel like money's the reason for this. So let's solve the money problem. Let's have some, right? So that was probably like the first like self-taught start, right? Then you fast forward a little bit to, let's just say, what was it, my first or second year of college? That summer, my mom was getting remarried. And because of this whole track record of me just always being this frugal kid, right? Not wanting to spend any of the money that he got, she said, me and my husband are getting remarried. And, you know, would you mind like helping us like kind of figure out our finances together, right? Because we're joining our finances. So I put together this whole fancy spreadsheet. This was like before Mint.com existed and all that kind of stuff. And I had a buddy of mine who was interning at a financial planning firm when I was interning at Coca-Cola. And I said, hey, can you look at this? Is this like anything like what y'all do for the clients that y'all work with? He's like, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Like, it's a little bit better, right? We don't get this detailed and this granular. So I was like, okay. Again, good to know, but didn't think that it was going to be a career path. So that was another indicator. And then I guess last but not least, to your point, working for the financial services firm, you know, that's when it really started. When I started interfacing with clients, or they asked me to reach out or build my prospect list. They said, find 200 people who can, you know, you can work with that have money to invest. I'm like, my people ain't got no money. You know what I'm saying? So it was an eye opener. I was like, man, like it was a reminder that people in my ecosystem that I had proximity to, they didn't understand money. And then what really did it for me is a guy came into my office. It was him, his 3 kids, and his wife. He was like 40, 43 at the time, right? Wanted to be a client, black guy, real nice guy. And he came into my office and he was telling me a situation, what he was trying to do. And I did the numbers. And this is before I really thought about like entrepreneurship, digital sales, right? Because I would have told him probably different advice in hindsight. But from a mathematical perspective on how we used to think about retirement, I was just like, yeah, man, you know, I don't see the path for you to stop working, right? Like mathematically, it wasn't panning out. And at the time, that's when it clicked for me. I was like, number one, the most important thing I can learn from this career is to absorb all the information necessary to make sure, number one, take care of myself, practice what I preach, make sure that I'm good, first and foremost. And then number two, to make sure that my people understand the gravity of personal finance, right? Because retirement feels so far away to most people, right? And people are only motivated by 2 things: to avoid pain or to seek pleasure. And when the pain seems so far in the present, or excuse me, in the future, it's hard for them to wrap their head around that, right? And so it's like retirement, whatever, right? Until they get there. And now they're handing out stickers of Walmart, right? And the thing I always like to tell my peers, I'm like, what are you doing so wildly different than your parents right now? And let's just assume their parents are not in the best position financially, right? That makes you think that your life is going to be different. Because it's easy to say because you think you got time. Like, oh, I ain't going to be me. I'm going to be financially independent by the time I'm 40. And 30. Okay, cool. Well, it's math. That's the beautiful thing about personal finance. Okay, show me. It's numbers, right? Mm-hmm. So show me how that's going to be possible. And most people didn't have an answer. Now, the beauty of that is the world has changed tremendously. And there's a paradigm shift around financial independence instead of retirement, right? Mm-hmm. And so we understand that there's more creative and abstract ways, but not to deviate too far from your question, that's when it hit for me. When I saw a 43-year-old man with 3 kids and his wife in my office, and the look on his eyes was just so devastated, right? I hated that I had to communicate that message, right? And I was like, that would never be me. That would never be anybody who's willing to listen to me who has the time to correct it.
Found the audience, man. And I like how you found a problem and you learned how to make that problem and then trying to find a solution for it. And you spoke on getting people kind of looking towards the future. How do you get people to do that? As a lot of times I come across people, they're too nearsighted and it's hard for them to look forward into the future.
That's a really great question, right? So what I think is the first step is you have to understand like what matters to you, right? And paint this picture, right? So I was in this conference one time and this lady said that in 2011, 1 billion drill bits were sold, right? I'm not like the most handy guy, but we all know drill bits are the things, you know, you put in the drill to hang up artwork, whatever, right? And she said, nobody that purchased a drill bit actually wanted the drill bit. And she said, let's assume that they used the drill bits to hang up artwork all over their house or, you know, their offices or whatever. They didn't even want the artwork. What they wanted was the feeling that they got when they walked in the room where the picture was hung, right? And so what people have to do is they have to define their picture, right? People are so head down day to day. It's hard to look up or even imagine, what does my ideal life look like? Because if you can take a second to imagine that, right? The beautiful part about it is you can start to mathematically map that out. Like, man, what would it look like to be able to travel internationally once a quarter? What would it look like to be able, and you start to like paint that picture. What does freedom look like? What does peace look like? What does fulfillment look like? What does happiness look like? Now notice, I'm not mentioning tangible like things. I'm keeping this very abstract because people need to define their own version of happiness first and foremost. And when they can define that for themselves, we can backdoor into a number, because then guess what happens? It doesn't matter how much money you have in the account. It doesn't matter if it's a Roth IRA, a 401k, a brokerage account, right? All you care about is the fuel or the resources that you're going to have to be able to live that lifestyle, right? And so what you do is you get people to focus on that, right? And then we just backdoor into the tactics. Because when you talk so much about the specifics, or people in my space want to flex their intellectual prowess around these advanced strategies, it's cool, but it's a means to an end, right? The concept is, I want to wake up without an alarm. I want to be able to take care of my family. I want to be able to go where I want, see what I want, do what I want, eat what, like that's what you really want, right? So when you identify that, then you just have to attach a number to it. And that's when we simply, pull the lever on the tactics to make it happen. But what happens is, when it feels like it's so far off in the distant future, people can't wrap their head around it, right? Because again, they're motivated by pain or pleasure. And most people, if you think about it, if given the choice between a painkiller and a vitamin, they're going to choose a painkiller, because a painkiller is going to solve your problem immediately. A vitamin is, if you do the right things, take this over an extended period of time, it'll probably have positive health benefits. That's what retirement sounds like, right? It's like, if I take this for the next 20 years, I'll probably be healthy when I'm 60. So you have to figure out a way to say, hey, look, let's bring that future pain into the present, right? Let's understand that that's what we want to avoid. But more importantly, let's not focus on the pain per se. Let's focus on what future pleasure we're going to be able to get from making these decisions now, right? Because motivation is a lot like taking a bath. It doesn't last, right? You got to do it daily. So some people it's a vision board. For me, it's a daily declaration. Every day, every morning, I'm reading, who is George? Who am I? Right? What life do I live? What type of business do I run? Right? What type of man am I? I read that every morning, right? And it's only so long you can go without looking at that and making sure your actions don't align to you mapping towards that, right? And then also giving people an opportunity to do something small every day, or at least every week, that makes them feel like they're already there. Don't push it off forever. That's one of the biggest mistakes I think I made in my early years of entrepreneurship. Head down and just, I'm gonna come up for air whenever, 10 years later, right? Like, no, enjoy some of that now. What does a wealthy life look like? Travel. Okay, cool. Take a 2-day trip to a city that you can drive to, right? Rent an Airbnb, right? Maybe it's me playing golf once a week when the weather's nice, but making sure that when you identify what that ideal life looks like, that you figure out small things that you can do right now and not push it off to the future.
Mm-hmm. Hey, man, that was a beautiful answer to that question, my brother.
Oh, thank you.
You made me think, whenever you were talking about that, identifying that future goal, about money master the game. There was a concept in there he talked about.
What I thought about.
That freedom number, and like how people not only like they think that it's such a larger number than what it has to be. A lot of times people always think I need 10 million, 15 million to be comfortable. And like in that book, as he was breaking it down to a lot of these people, to live these extravagant lifestyles that they thought, like, compared to what they had, a lot of times it was a lot more realistic. And it was a principle you said in there. You just got to start putting numbers on things. And I just think that's so important that you mentioned that, man.
Yeah, it's man, it's so like inspiring when you just do the math, right? Like people, the biggest buzzword ever, make your business making six figures, making six figures. It's $273 a day. You know what I'm saying? So you're focused on 100,000, and let's keep in mind, if we can keep it in the book for the record, 100,000 to your point ain't shit. And there's a lot of more numbers before, after that number, right? So you can make 800,000 and that'd be six figure. I keep hearing six figures. I don't think people default to 100,000, but bigger numbers. Okay. But anyways, right. And so my point of bringing that up is like 273, right? That's what you focus on. 27, like, what can I do daily? People want to like get out of their situation so bad that everybody's searching for a shiny ball. Everybody's searching. It's like the lottery ticket syndrome, right? If I just had this big check, it'll solve all my problems. If I could just get one foot in front of the other every single day. This year, well, we're in 2021 now as of this podcast, but in the pandemic, when I couldn't go to the gym, I noticed your boy was falling off a little bit, right? You know what I'm saying? There's a little bit too much love in them love handles. I was like, this ain't it. You know what I'm saying? Self-awareness is key. And so I was like, you know what? I don't care about the circumstance. I'm going to turn my health back around and get back into much better shape, right? So I lost 25 pounds in the global pandemic, right? I got in the best shape of my life since college in a global pandemic, right? And so I bring that up only to say this. The way I got there was by simply tracking what I ate on a daily basis, making daily deposits to getting better. And then I look up 4 months later, I'm in the best shape of my life, right? I didn't just jump over the hurdle or try to do a detox tea or a 3-week challenge. Like, no, just one foot in front of the other, day after day, and the results will come, right? Stop chasing the shiny ball. Stop trying to circumvent the process. The process is the process. And it's the same thing with your money, right? You got to just one step at a time, right? Same thing with business. It's like, if I can just get two $50 sales a day, you know what I'm saying? What does that look like, you know? But everybody just focuses on that big esoteric number, and then they get overwhelmed and they don't end up doing anything.